everyone. Emotions can run high for teens with ADHD. It happens a lot. And as parents, it can be very overwhelming to manage these outbursts and these intense reactions in daily life. So today we're focusing on emotional regulation and why it's so hard for ADHD brains, what common challenges look like, and also, of course, you're here for practical tools that you can use and implement immediately to help your teen navigate those intense feelings. So let's get started. Okay. So first of all, why is emotional regulation so hard? We previously talked about the part of the brain that's responsible for regulating emotions, that frontal lobe, known as a frontal lobe. Okay. It's still developing during the teenage years. You're like, wah, I know. But this area makes up, remember what I shared earlier in the previous video, almost half of the brain. And it plays a very critical role in managing these emotions, these decision makings, and also self-regulation. So almost half your brain encompasses these emotions. So for teens with ADHD, this developmental stage can be even more challenging. Yay for us. Just kidding. Because ADHD impacts this part of the brain's ability to regulate the impulses and emotions effectively. So when emotions run high, the brain's working memory, that mental space we use to hold and process information in a moment, can essentially shut down or go offline. Okay. That creates an occurrence that that's known in our ADHD world as emotional flooding. And it's where these strong feelings like frustration or anger or sadness take over. And it's leaving our teenagers feeling stuck and overwhelmed. The emotional flooding helps explain why seemingly small triggers can lead to maybe a disproportionately big emotional reaction. Okay, for example, I know this is happening in your world. It's happening in my home, as well as my private coaching. Let's say a teenager forgets to turn in their homework assignment. Happens all the time, especially during the pandemic, right? Instead of calmly addressing the issue, they might spiral into negative self-thoughts like, I'm terrible at school. I can never remember to turn in my things. When my classmates do, I'll never succeed. And whatever else they're saying to them, their sweet little narratives. These thoughts can feel really overwhelmingly true in the moment because they're flooded, remember, even if they are far from accurate. And that's the thing. They have a very difficult time tapping into getting back and regulating, okay? So in this state, when they're emotionally flooded, the strongest or the most emotional thought dominates, which crowds out the ability to think rationally, to problem solve, or even put that situation into perspective, okay? And this cycle can be really frustrating for both parent and the teenager. I get it. Teens are feeling misunderstood or maybe even judged, while parents might struggle to understand why their child seems to overreact. So recognizing emotional flooding as a natural response to the brain development and ADHD is a first step toward helping your teens navigate those moments with greater self-awareness and resilience. Resilience is really hard at times for our teenagers because they get stuck in this negative self-talk. Very, very challenging. So here's another example that may be happening in your world. Maybe your teen studied really hard for a math test, but didn't do as well as they expected. When they get the test back, they see a lower grade, right? And that they had hoped for, and then those emotions take over. They might think, I'm so stupid, I'll never get this right. I always miss this one part. I'm going to fail math and ruin my chances of getting into college. Okay. These thoughts spiral very quickly and they feel overwhelmed with frustration and sadness. So these emotions take over, flooding that frontal lobe, and they might slam their book shut, or they may refuse to talk to anyone, or they might come home and just go straight up to the room, slam the door without saying a peep to you, but you know that they're upset. In this emotion, remember, their brain is in an emotional flooding mode. The frustration about the test grade has triggered a cascade of emotional, overwhelming feelings. And that working memory part, which is the ability to tap in how to problem solve, right? That working memory, the part of the brain that can help them step back, think about it rationally, has temporarily gone offline. So remember, I'm going to say that again. The strongest thought gets through, leaving them at a deficit to be able to tap into strategies that will help them think rationally. So logical solutions, helping them think rationally, like reviewing mistakes or asking the teacher to help them, understand completely what maybe they missed. That goes offline because their emotions are not in control. They are not in a place where they can problem solve, where they can take a step back and say, you know what? Hey, I actually did study hard for that, and I only missed these couple things. It might have been just a simple error, right? But in their mind and in that moment when their emotions are flooding, not happening. So these types of responses are very common for teens because they might find it harder to regulate intense emotions. Okay, so what you might be seeing in your home, some of these common challenges, and maybe these reactions, you might see slamming doors, or you might see shouting when they're frustrated. You might know that your teens have negative self-talk, saying things like, I'll never get this right. I'm always late. I always turn my homework in late, right? Not helping. Our teens are in a very emotional state and they're riddled with anxiety, unfortunately, because of these challenges. So there's also, they may have challenges with expressing their feelings, struggling to name their emotions, and it leads to more frustration. Sometimes they don't have the words for it and they don't want to have to sit there and feel like they have to tell you every thought or feeling that they're having. So here are 3 strategies for you parents. 1, always validate the feelings. Instead of dismissing their emotions, acknowledging them. For example, say, I see that this is really frustrating for you, and it's okay to feel that way. This helps them feel heard, super important, and can de-escalate the situation. If you think about it, we all want to feel validated. We all want to feel acknowledged when we're having a really intense emotional moment. We don't want to just say, oh, you'll get over it. You know that that's not necessarily true. Nobody wants to hear that. Teens especially don't want to hear that. Okay, so always validate these emotions. They will feel understood. They will feel like you understand them, and they will feel heard. Okay, teach the power of pause. Encourage them to take a short break to calm down, or maybe even a long break, right? Drinking a glass of cold water, going out and walking and getting in nature can help reset the entire nervous system. Not discussing the issue when emotions are high is the best practice of self-care. Being able to pause and come back to what happened when they've had a chance to process and when they've had a chance to decompress will yield a much more productive discussion. So 3, you always want to model self-talk. Yes, positive self-talk. Sorry, that's my 3rd point here. When your teenager says, I'm bad at math, gently reframe it to, math is hard, but you're smart, you're learning, and you're getting better, right? You can do the hard work. You study for the test and you put in the work. Help them see the progress because they're not able to see it when they're in those moments. Emotional regulation is a skill that takes time and practice, okay? Validating the feelings, teaching tools to manage frustration. You're equipping your teenager with these lifelong strategies. I have a free ebook. I'm going to put the link down below here in the comments. It's called 5 Keys to Empowering Your Teen. And in it, I go into a bit more detail about how to de-escalate and how to meet your teen where they are whenever they're in these emotional situations and when they're triggered. And so if you want to check that out, I'll put the link down here in the comments. So if you found this helpful, and I hope you did, and informative, don't forget to subscribe and learn more tips like these as well.